Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I thought I'd be on Zoom today, so it's so exciting to have the opportunity to be here again with you in person. 2 weeks in a row, I feel spoiled. So last week we talked about getting ready for freedom and what that looks like. Well, now July 4th has passed, and if we've done some of the work, we've prepared ourselves. But now what? What do we do with that? We've done the work to get ready. Hopefully we've done some forgiveness work. Hopefully we've released some limiting beliefs. We've let go of the things that aren't in our control. And all that sounds really good, and we probably have a lot more of all of that to still do, right? It's an ongoing process. Edwin Gaines, one of my mentors, many know she used to travel and teach prosperity. Her practice of forgiveness over the years has become a daily practice where every evening she says, "Who have I put outside of my heart today?" I've adopted that because every day, even if it's just the person that cut you off in the traffic, we put people outside of our hearts and we forget that we're one. And it's when we forget that all the work we've done, all the teachings we've learned fall away. So when we reflect back on our core beliefs, on our values, when we recenter ourselves with spirit, when we do the work, the creative work, the self-work, we come back into remembering. Deepak Chopra says that healing is a return to memory of wholeness. Healing is a return to memory of wholeness. So today I invite you to remember. There's this fabulous quote by Confucius who says, "The most beautiful sight in the world is a little child going confidently down the road after you've shown him the way." We're all walking down the road of life. And the most beautiful thing is to be walking confidently, unafraid, grounded in the faith that was mentioned, grounded in this understanding, with a feeling of deep security and knowing in our hearts, with a sense of truly remembering. So we've done all this work, we studied, we prepared. Now it's time to confidently be what we've been talking about. To step into these principles, into these truths, into these practices, and to demonstrate it, to shine that light, to shine that truth, to stand in faith and be the demonstration. To use our tools, our principles out in the world, not just on Sundays within these walls when we're together with each other. So it's time to begin. And the time to begin is often, because we might be human, and we forget often. We fall off track, and sometimes easily. We probably all know that one person or that one situation that just knocks us right off in an instant, even when we intended to stay strong. We're like, "Oh, I'm back there again." But when Jesus said to follow me, he meant to get yourself on a spiritual wavelength, to follow him in the experience of overcoming, over and over and over, overcoming, and the freedom that comes with that. This is a daily practice. You see, there's not a one and done. Man, do I wish I could forgive once and not have to do it again. I wish that I could do the self-care work. And, can't we just have a salad once and be healthy? Go to the gym once and be fit? That would be awesome. I mean, seriously, right? But the truth is, only in consciousness can we ever be in bondage. Only in our consciousness do we forget the truth of who we are. And at the same time, only by changing our consciousness can we find true freedom. So this isn't a once a year on Independence Day. This isn't a just on Sundays when we come to church. This is a daily practice. There's a story that I've heard about a little girl whose mom says it's time to go to bed. And the little girl's like, "Oh, come on, Mommy, please, can I just have a little bit longer? I have some thinking to do." And her mom thought that was a little interesting, so she said, "Okay. Take your time. When you're ready, come along." So she takes a little bit, and then she, follows her mom to get ready to go to bed. And her mom says, "So what were you thinking about?" And she said, "I was thinking about gravity. And I decided that gravity is God at the center of the earth that keeps the people the right side up when the world is upside down." Can you imagine? And it may not be actual gravity holding us to the earth that keeps us in our right state of mind, but it is being centered in spirit that keeps our consciousness right side up. So as the world, we sit on top of this world, and it often feels upside down. And there's many factors to that. We look out, and each one of us could just notice all the things that seem to be in chaos or in conflict. But the same is true for peace, for presence. The same is true for all the opposites that exist. It's both and, it's all included. So as we sit in our own feelings, in our own aspirations, when we come to remember that it's our perspective that puts us on top of the world or upside down. And again, we have those moments. We've all been in a state where we could feel it coming, where we knew we were about to say something we shouldn't, or we were about to get upset over something that we had nothing to do with. And we probably even all had moments where we went, I don't care, I'm doing it anyway. But those are the moments where opportunity lie. You see, the kingdom of God is within us. It's here, always present, always an option anyway. Just an option, and we don't have to choose it. But I invite you to take a moment to think of a time when you chose the opposite, and how did you feel in that? Versus when you chose to maybe let them be. There's this great message out there by Mel Robbins, and she calls it the let them theory. She's like, you know what? They don't want to include you? Let them. They want to lie to you? Let them. Now that doesn't mean don't have boundaries. It doesn't mean don't make healthy choices for you. It's just a really good reminder that we can't do anything about them, whoever them is, anyway, right? And the freedom comes with letting them. That's what they're going to do. Okay, then what will I do? How will I react? How will I respond? What is my next step? Kids are really great about that. If plans get canceled, kids are like, okay, so what do we do instead? Like it's a big adventure. Where us, sometimes adults can be in the suffering of what they think should have gone differently long after it even exists. We're the ones holding ourselves back from true freedom, right? The important thing is simply to remember that you're the master of your own thoughts, the master of your mental household, your consciousness. So I think there's two ways in which we can answer, now what? How do we begin? Well, the first is practice, 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 practice. Again, this is ongoing. At the end of every day, what would happen if you asked, who have I put outside my heart today? And don't just ask to be shown, but what if we invited them back into our heart? That doesn't mean approving of wrongdoings, but just saying, you know what, I recognize the human in you. Just like I want people to understand the human in me when maybe I'm off track. What if each day we took time, in whatever way is most meaningful for you, to do the work? Maybe that's meditating or praying, all these things that we talk about and we have this vision of, and so many of us get so busy that we don't do, that we don't actually practice. We know it works. We know what happens to us when we pray or meditate or tap or whatever your work is. But yet, it sits in our fabulous, beautiful toolbox, unused. So the first act is to practice. If you know there's forgiveness work in you, again, it's not a one and done. Maybe we take time each day just to go, okay, today I'll start with me. I'll look in the mirror and forgive me. Today I'll forgive the person who cut me off in traffic. Maybe we'll work up to the big ones, right? Or today I will just hold the vision and send love out into the world in my mind, from my heart, sending healing. I don't need to know how it's possible. So whatever way it is for you to do the work, we prepared, but the truth is preparing is an ongoing thing, a daily thing. But then there's this next step. And before we move on to the next step, we have to let go of our attachment. But the second step to what I believe is ours to begin right here, right now, ties into that let them. What if we were willing to let go of our attachment to how other people should live, be, and we allowed them the same freedom that we desire? Because if we desire to be free, to be who we are, to believe what we want, to live in the way that we believe, the teachings of Christ taught us, We heard that earlier in that beautiful reading. There was, love when there could have been hate. There was peace when there could have been conflict. And that's what we see in the stories of Jesus. And that same presence of Christ lives within us. But we have to let go to that needing to look the same in others. Now that can be hard to do. Depending on, how much you're out in the world. If we stay home, it can look just like we want it to, right? We can close the curtains. But if we're living our lives, we're going to run into people doing some things that we don't understand. We'll put it that way. And what if we were willing to give them the gift of freedom that we've requested ourselves, that we've prepared for? What might that look like for you? Whether it be a family member who's doing things differently than you wish. If there are any parents in the room, every parent has had that experience. They don't seem to do all the things we say. My kids are in their 30s now, and they still aren't doing it the ways I wish they would. I thought I had control when they were little, and that was a delusional thought. And then I thought it would get easier when they were adults, and not so much, right? But what if we even go outside of our own family, out into the world? What if we could let people just be who they are and live their journey, their path? I'd like to read to you a little snippet out of How I Use Truth by Emily Cady. She says, a sure sign of a free soul is one's knowing the truth about God, about himself, about others, and about life itself. A free soul is no longer in bondage to limited beliefs. He is willing to grant the same freedom to another that he desires for himself. He allows the other person to find God, to unfold his own spiritual resources in his own way, according to the needs of his own soul. With the dawning of this consciousness, the free soul sees the same God working in his fellow man as is working in him in order to bring each one into consciousness, that the Father abiding within me does the work, as stated in John 14:10. She goes on to say, since we are created in the image and after the likeness of God, spiritual freedom is given to us as our birthright from the moment we arrived. However, while this freedom is ours in essence, it is like any inherent right. It is only ours as we fulfill the conditions that enable us to claim it. Inability to grant the same liberty to other enfolding souls, the liberty which we have in the Christ presence, prevents our being free in actuality. So if we're not willing to give it to others, kind of like in the Lord's Prayer, we want our trespasses to be forgiven. And the prayer is, as we shall forgive. Well, wait a minute, if we're not forgiving and we're asking for us to be forgiven in the same way we forgive, but we're not doing the work, where does that leave us? Are we willing to do this work? She goes on to say, love and understanding become vital qualities in our freeing of others. Added to these qualities, there must be faith that each individual has his own Lord or law of being. There must be faith in the inherent right of every person, to choose the way of soul development that is right for him or her in any stage of his soul's awareness. Which means it may look different than your understanding. And of course, the love they're talking about, this is agape love. This is love as God loves, unconditionally, not based on, attraction or parental feelings, not based on emotions. And she closes, she says, refusal to grant freedom to others to discover their own inner source of strength might be likened to our desire to keep the acorn on the surface of the ground, for fear that it might get hurt or lost if it should sink down into the wet, dark earth. If the acorn is to develop into a full-grown tree, though, as we know, it must sink to a level sufficiently deep to enable it to push its roots up through the earth, from whence it can draw the needed substance, strength, and stability to produce a strong oak tree. So it is with this individual, with all individuals. He must find his own level and must learn to be rooted and grounded in spirit within that person. The spirit is present within each and every one of us, but it's expressed differently through us than it may be through others. Only in this way can he produce an outer structure, body, and affairs that will bear the spiritual fruit for which he was created. The power for this month, for July, is understanding. Can you imagine a world where we were able to simply offer a bit of understanding? Compare that with faith that we talked about earlier. Imagine those two powers standing strong within us. Faith, that right where I am, God is, right where they are, God is, and understanding, which sometimes means not understanding in our own essence, but understanding that their path is where they're meant to be. The disciple for understanding is Thomas, and he represents the ability to see beyond appearances in reality. So sometimes when we look out into the world, I think of the iceberg method. I run a group at work called Mindsets of Behaviors, and we talk about the iceberg and how if we're looking at an iceberg as other people as icebergs, we only see at most 10% of other people. We see what they want us to see, what they're showing. What we don't see down below the waterline is their feelings, their values, their emotions, their experiences. And it's through each one of those things that their expression comes, that our expression comes. We see and hear through our experiences, not even always what is actually being said or shown. We interpret it based on what we've gone through in our lives, which has brought us to be who we are. And each person has had different experiences, different teachings, different lives. So they're hearing and experiencing and expressing through their experience. The power of understanding is important in developing our spiritual nature because really it's the faculty that puts feet to our prayers. It says, I understand that in this moment I have my way of expressing and I allow others to express in their way. So my invitation to you today is to remember that we are all one, showing up in different ways, expressing in different ways, but connected through spirit. So my invitation is to remember first the human in each other, the human behind the political party, behind the religion, behind the race, the gender, the human behind the sexual identity, the job title, the mental illness, the addiction, the human behind the experience that we see with our eyes. And remember then the Christ presence within the human. Because so many of those things show up and they cause us to feel separate, to feel different. But the truth is we are always connected, always one. God is everywhere present and we are a part of that. So I wanted to share the scripture with you and a little bit of insight into Matthew 5:43. You have heard it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who mistreat you and persecute you, that you may be children of your Father who is in heaven. Now, Charles Fillmore said, what does this love your enemies thing means? It says, by refusing to judge their conduct by worldly standards, by forgiving their trespasses against us, and by beholding them as children of God, the universal Father. The love we have to relate to the Greek word agape. This term does not convey personal affection such as that felt for our dear ones. It refers not to emotion or sentiment, but to an attitude, to an unselfish good that is lifted above the personal level. Agape love recognizes the need of others and seeks to help them, regardless of what they have done. Regardless of what they have done. It does not approve of the wrongdoing, but it sees the one who has done wrong as capable of being fine and good. It seeks to find and encourage the Christ in everyone. So we've done our work, we come here, we learn these principles, we state what we believe. And then we go out and we act in ways that isn't always aligned. So again, my invitation to you today is to look at your life honestly without judgment And give yourself the gift of noticing maybe what pushes you out of alignment. Maybe the people or situations that cause you to forget. And in those moments, can you just simply send some peace, some understanding? Just simply remind yourself that right there, God is too. No matter the situation, no matter what it is you appear to think or see or understand should be differently. What if right there we knew that God is our source? We talk about that in tithing. When we tithe, we are acknowledging that God is our source, not our paycheck, not Social Security, not our jobs, whatever it is, but that God is our source, working through all these different aspects in life. What if God is working through the challenges, the chaos, the conflict? What if right there we actually believed what we teach and claim to think, that right there we know God is also? That's my invitation to you first, to look within, because only by aligning ourselves can we go out and be of much good to others. But then also give yourself the gift of noticing where you don't give that freedom to other people or to other situations. And again, without judgment. It's our time to begin to be. We are so caught up in all of the doing. We are some busy people. No matter how full your schedule is, we are out there doing and being and do all this stuff, but we forget to just be. And I think of Mary and Martha. That's probably been my favorite Bible story all of my life, because I tend to be Martha. I am a doer, a helper, a fixer. I am one, like, somebody comes and they want to vent to me. I'm like, okay, I have an answer, or I'll help you find the answer. When so often what somebody really needs is just to feel seen and heard and supported. And we can give that gift even when we don't agree with where they're at or what they're doing. Can we just be in a space where someone else feels safe? Can we just open up that space to others? I'd like to read to you the Creed, written by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Whoever has begotten by pure love, and came desired and welcomed into life, is of immaculate conception. He whose heart is full of tenderness and truth, who loves mankind more than he loves himself, and cannot find room in his heart for hate, may be another Christ. We all may be the saviors of the world if we believe in the divinity which dwells in us, and worship it, and nail our grosser selves, our tempers, our greeds, and our unworthy aims upon the cross. Who giveth love to all, pays kindness for unkindness, smiles for frowns, and lends new courage to each fainting heart, and strengthens hope and scatters joy abroad. He too is a Redeemer, Son of God, child of God. Can you imagine being a full out, uninhibited, not unjudged expression of the Christ presence within you? What would that look like to you? Can you just bring to one thought to your mind where you are holding that gift back from others? And maybe it's a situation in the world or a specific individual. And just imagine how you would be different, how your life would be different if you didn't hold in your belief system that should be different, that they should be different. Just pick one person, one situation. And if you truly didn't believe that they should be different, how would you be different? How would you be different if you didn't believe that they should be different? Would you move a little freer around them? Would you be a little kinder? Would your body tension relax a little? I mean, this isn't just in our mind. When we go out into the world upset and angry about all the things we think should be different, we become blinded to the beauty that exists at the exact same time. So just take that one thing, the first one that comes in your mind. Because we all have one, they're like, you know what, I can grasp all this, except for in regards to that person. That one doesn't deserve my forgiveness, or that situation is messed up no matter what perspective you're looking at it from. If you have one of those come to your mind, use that. And just imagine your world and how different it would be if you release that, if you let it go. Now I want to sing a Disney song. I'm not really going to sing, but don't you, every time I hear Let It Go, I'm like, Elsa pops in my head. I don't even have little kids. And she's but what would it take for you to let it go? What would it take for you just to go, you know what? I'm going to allow that. Their path, their journey. And on that path, on that journey, they're learning the lessons that they need for this experience. They're learning the ways and having the experiences that will lead them to be an expression of the Christ that's also within them. We didn't get here overnight. Whether we're talking about all the wonderful ways we're living or all the ways in which we need to release and let go, those things took time and experiences and built up. So just like being the principles we teach takes daily practice, so does allowing others. So does letting them. It takes constantly reminding yourself, constantly practicing. And sometimes that may be hard. You may need to grit your teeth now and then. Be like, oh, but how do I let them do that? You know, when my kids were teenagers, there was a moment, I have 2 kids, and there was a moment where I thought, I'm not sure all 3 of us are going to make it through this alive. I'm not sure which one of us, but I'm not sure we could, I may take one of us out. I don't know. This was, it wasn't easy. Teenagers have all these emotions and they make decisions without them ever passing through their brain that's supposed to think through things logically. And there were moments where I felt like this is kind of like you have to love them so much that you allow them to drive full speed at the brick wall, and then even when they crash, just stand by loving them until they reach out and say help. And that can be hard. That can be hard because, of course, surely we know that if people did it our way, the world would be a better place. I mean, obviously, right? But it takes each person's piece of the puzzle for the puzzle to be whole. And some of the puzzles may be confusing and not bring much color to the world in our perspective, but they're each needed. So what would it take to give that gift of freedom to others? Just allow yourself to ponder that this week, to really think about where is it you're holding that back from somebody else. Where is it you're holding that back from yourself? Do you shrink back because you're worried of what others would think? Because I have news for you. What other people think of you is none of your business. What they think of you is a reflection of something going on in them. So where are you holding that back from you? In this moment, if we're going to step fully into expressing this presence within us, how might that look? Which one thing that you can do to live more full out, to live the life you dream of? Let's take that vision into our hearts. Are you willing to accept the invitation? The invitation to express, to be, and to allow others to do the same. Because this is a work in progress. We are all under construction at all times. So the being is really just a practice. Day after day, catching the thoughts, the limiting beliefs that show back up, catching where we feel triggered or want to react instead of respond. Because it'll happen. It'll keep happening. The practice is a matter of catching it and pivoting. Emmett Fox says in The Golden Key that every time you have a negative thought, turn your attention to God and the situation will change. And the truth is the situation may not change in front of you out in that expressive world, but if you turn your attention to God within, you will change and be better able to face whatever it is that's before you or whomever it is. So this is just to remember, an invitation to remember, to return to that memory of wholeness that you are. Just take a deep breath with me. And picture in your mind living in that full expression that full acceptance of others. What might that look like in your world, in your life, in your daily practice? Close your eyes if you're comfortable as we take this into meditation. Place your hand on your heart if that feels comfortable. And feel that Christ's presence living the life that you are. The beat of life that is the expression of you, of God within you. Be still with me for just this moment. And I'd like you to just to whisper for yourself right now, I exist. I exist. Right here, right now, the whole universe is projecting itself into focus through an infinite and wonderful idea, which I am. This is God's image and likeness. Whatever else I am, it is simply this, I amness, that is being suppressed, seeing in a mirror darkly. Let us remember and never forget that beyond the appearance, beyond the human, beyond the flesh, beyond the limitations of relationships and the environment around us, there is an allness, there is a wholeness, there is an I amness. And this is what I really am. When life asks you, who do you think you are? There is only one answer, and it comes easily. I am. I am whole. I am an individualized expression of the infinite. I am the Christ, a child of the living God. I am the beating of the heart within my chest. I am the breath that I breathe. May we go forth into this day conscious of this great depth and commit ourselves to the practice of it, dedicated to the realization that you are created in God's image and likeness. That the image of God is the reality of who you are at the center of you. Feel that, breathe that in. It is the wholeness of you which is present even when you forget. You can never be separate from the truth of who you are. There's an expression, namaskar, which is similar to namaste. And it simply means the divinity within me salutes the divinity within you. It's a beautiful realization to hold and to try to get centered in your awareness of the truth about yourself and about other persons, other people around you. But it's especially good in helping yourself when you look in the mirror, literally or figuratively. Just to whisper to yourself, namaskar. I see you. The first thing in the morning when you stand before the mirror, or before you go to bed at night, namaskar. I salute the divinity within you. I see you as God's perfect child. Perfect in potential, not yet perfected. There's still work to be done. Perfect as a potential creature for expression. Namaskar. So as we begin to bring our attention back to this space, just take one more breath, breathe that in, the truth that you are, I am, the expression of God within. And as we prepare to go into this day, conscious of this great truth, not trying to remember techniques or trying to remember phrases or statements or quotes, simply remember who you are. Praise God for the truth that makes us free. For right now, in this moment, it's time to begin. Taking one more breath. Breathing in the truth that right within you God is, and all that you ever need is already within you, right where you are. I see you. I see the truth of you. And if you look around into the eyes of the people in this room, the people online, the people in your world, you'll see that the truth is right there within them too. And when we allow it to be, it is beautiful. So I hope you'll accept the invitations I've presented to you today and go out into this day and begin the work, the creative work that is the expression of God moving through you.